All right, I'm recording. It's September 24th, and a quick recap. Last time I posted a video about the project where we were starting it, taking our code from that quiz game and making it more efficient. Instead of copy pasting a bunch of stuff each time, we made a function to do the generalized steps we needed and then just called it up each time we need to do them. And then I posted a video separately that was about some stuff in CodeHS Unit 6 that people were asking about. So today, I want to go back to that quiz and just add a little more. Okay, so I made one, quiz game part 1. I'm going to hit copy and make it quiz game part 2, and then add a little more stuff. Where we left off was we had made a function that does all the stuff, asks the question, compares it to the answer key. If they get it, it adds a score, says correct. If they don't, it says incorrect. And that worked for our first 3 questions. We were able to turn those into just a single line. And then I left off with the 4th guy because it had a different structure, at least a little bit. It said, okay, who came second Stanley Cup Finals? And the answer was they could either say the name of the team or the name of the city. So it had 2 possibilities, and that doesn't fit into what we've got so far. Now, when you write your questions, you don't have to do this. You don't have to make one with multiple answers. Because remember, you're not using these questions. You're replacing them with your own, and you're going to ask about, whatever. But let's say we wanted to. Let's say we wanted to add another possible answer. And the way you do that is to just add another parameter up here. The only difference is this one's going to be optional. So when you say question and correct answer in these parentheses, it needs those. And if you try to run it without it, like if we only had one thing here, it wouldn't work. It would give us an error. And let's try it just to see what that error would say. It would say, ask question, missing one required position argument. Correct answer. So it would say, hey, we got one, but we didn't get the second one. However, a lot of functions use more than one, and only some of them are needed. Like when we do the range function, sometimes we just send it one thing to tell it how many, and then sometimes we send it 2 for start and stop, and sometimes we send it 3 for start and stop in the interval between them. And when we make our own functions, you can do a similar thing. The way to make them optional is to give it a default. So, for example, on the range function, if you don't tell it where to start, it starts at 0. If you don't tell it the interval between them, it's 1. Okay? So if you have some parameters and you give them a default value, then the other parts of the code don't need to supply it. If they do, great. If not, we'll just use the default. So let's say we're going to say second answer, and then you would put equals something. And if it has an equals, then it's already going to have a default value, meaning it doesn't need to be supplied from outside. It could be, and that would replace whatever we put in the equals, but it's not guaranteed. Now this is kind of weird, right? Because now we have to pick something that would be a second answer. So it's not like the range where we always want to start at 0 or always want to go by 1. You almost want to put something, for this, you almost want to put something nonsensical, since you never expect anyone to actually type this. You either expect them to ignore it completely or to have it replaced by something. So I'm just going to put ASDF. But theoretically, this never matters because the user's not going to type it, and we're never going to use it. without being replaced by one of these other guys. Although, now that it's there, we could use it as like a sort of test answer where if you were zooming through and you wanted to get one right, you could just type this and give yourself the point. A lot of computer programs of various kinds have like that sort of, cheat code to get you through if you're testing it. And hopefully the user never knows or thinks about that. But then we can do the ask question function for this guy and just give it the two answers. So we could go, comma, wait, I deleted too much, comma, and comma, no, and then get rid of all this stuff. Now, if I ran that, it would work, but it wouldn't actually use it because I haven't told it what to do with that second answer yet. So I might put something like if answer.lower equals correct answer, or answer.lower equals second answer. Then I could have this guy prepared for that in every question. So I'm going to hit run, make sure, maybe I typoed or something. And we'll try, we'll get one right, we'll get one wrong. We'll try one where we use that secret answer key cheat code, and then we'll do one where we try the second possible answer for that one, and it did work on all of those. So that's not needed, okay? You don't have to do that, but I'm showing that if you wanted to have a second possible answer, you can add it, and it doesn't have to be used in all the other function calls. They can just pretend like there are two parameters and not use the optional one. It also gives you a chance to sort of test thing. If you have this second answer that's always right, unless it gets replaced by another piece in the parentheses, then you could use that to test. If you want to say, hey, I want to get this one right just for score purposes or whatever, you can just type this cheat code and get it. So that works for two angles, two uses there. One thing I saw in somebody's was when the user put the wrong answer, it would tell them what the right one was. That's pretty reasonable, right? It's almost like you're teaching them what they didn't know. So if somebody said, who came second in the Stanley Cup Finals and they didn't know, and you want them to know, well, you can say, oh, well, actually it was the Las Vegas Knights. And that is the kind of thing that you can add to this function here, and then it automatically affects all the other guys. So let's say we were going to do that. I'm not mandating it. I'm just saying, here's another example of changing our function will give big rewards, because if I just add one line here, it's going to affect every single question throughout. So I could say something like, for example, the correct answer was, and then I could say correct answer. Now, then if somebody was doing this and they put the wrong thing for one, it'll say, hey, just so you know, here's what we were looking for. Now I want to say, and then it says what the correct answer was. Now, you don't have to do that, but I'm just showing that in theory, we can change the function, add a new feature, change the way it works a little bit, maybe change the order. Then all these other guys, where it's just a single line, will be instantly updated and improved and get all the benefits. That's why we have the function, is that if we had them all as big blocks of code that were copied and pasted and we want to add something, we'd have to add it to every little guy, and it would take forever, and there would be a good chance that we would mess up. You know, no good. So I want to stop there. I want to make a nice short video today, and then maybe add one final one next time. But the point is, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this, but you should do something, like some little twist to your question, and then it'll filter through and affect all of them. You could say, for example, a running total. After each one, you could say, oh, you got a point, your total score so far is 3 points, you know, and that's another thing you could add in here, and it would automatically happen each time. So think about maybe adding one little feature or changing one feature. If you want to go past that, you could even do stuff like, oh, I'm going to change the way the question works and make them multiple choice or something like that, although it would take a little more than just a single line. But that's the idea. We've got a couple of days. Of the people I've seen who've been starting on this, a lot of them are doing great, and they're, you know, I don't want to say done, because done is always that magic word that just stops our brains and says, okay, I'm going to take a nap now. But a lot of them are getting to the point where they've got something solid. Now, if you're not there, that's okay. We've still got today, 2 classes next week, plus impact, plus e-learning. So it's not time to scramble yet, but you do want to get something going. Thanks.